Let us know when you're ready and we're all set.
Ready whenever you guys are.
Great.
Your stand is muted if it matters.
All right, so we'll call the meeting to order and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, sorely needed on this dire day. Let's send our prayers to the country as well, that we right the ship.
Yep.
Enough said.
Agree.
Everybody stand, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
States of America,
And to the
and to the
republic
republic
for which
for
it
which
stands,
stands
one nation,
one nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty
with liberty and
justice
justice
for all.
for all.
Thank you, guys. Okay, Mary, any public comments?
No public comment.
And presentations, correspondence?
Nothing formal. We do have some information from our Eagle Scout project, but I'll probably talk about that during the director's report if that's agreeable.
That's fine. Minutes of the previous meeting. I was not here, but I did read through them. Does anybody have any comments or corrections to the minutes?
Didn't we have to review more than 1 month worth of minutes?
Oh, is it more than 1 month, Brian? Because
I
I
thought
wasn't
so.
at the last meeting, so I,
Yeah, I believe so, because I think there was only 2 at the one prior.
prior to that. Okay,
Actually, both sets of the minutes are attached to the agenda. They're not listed on the agenda page, though.
no problem. Okay, so the
October
meeting,
20th and December 9th.
Liz, would you repeat the first one, please?
October 28th, which is the meeting that you ran, Joey,
Yep,
and,
okay.
and
Just trying to
December
get my
9th.
volume up here. Okay, any questions or comments on the October 28th minutes? And if not, can I hear a motion for approval, please?
I'll make a motion to approve both minutes as written.
Do we have comments or questions on the December 9th minutes, or we can do them together? No questions, so may I hear, let's change the motion. May I hear a motion to approve both the October 28th and the December 9th minutes? John?
I'll make the motion to approve both those date minutes.
Okay, and a
I'll second it.
Tom?
Second
All
it.
those in favor of approving the October 28th minutes and the December 9th minutes, raise your hands, please. I can do
Aye.
October 28th.
Aye.
Thank you. And Renee, were you
I said aye. Yep.
great? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, Mary, director's report.
Thank you. I'm very slow on my unmute button these days. So I just wanted to take a few minutes to fill you in about the progress that's been made on Connor Carlson's Eagle Scout project, because he's made a lot of very positive progress in the last few weeks after our last meeting. To let you know that we do know now that he does need to get a building permit in order to repair the structure. So we are going to have the oversight of the building department. The current footprint is approximately 19 by 19. And so we'll be working with him to take out the building permit since it is a town-owned property. We also know that he has engaged at least one licensed home improvement contractor who's been in business for 20 years, who's working as his mentor. We know that he is meeting with a structural engineer this coming weekend, who's going to be providing some schematics. And once Connor has the schematics in hand, he's going to be able to really formalize the expected costs for the project. We know that right now the fundraising has been very positively received so far. Since he just launched it this past weekend, he already has over $4,000 donated. So that means that between what the town has raised, had donated, has in our capital, and what he's raised already, we're at about $15,000 so far. So all very, very positive things. I did let Connor know that we needed to get some more consistent communication from him, and he has 100% stepped up. He has been speaking with me weekly, giving me updates, and in fact, he provided us with a fantastic update after my meeting with him on Monday, just with where he is on everything from advertising to meeting with structural engineers, contractors, materials. I really feel like he has a really great handle on this, and he has all the support systems in place that he needs. What Connor needs from the town is really he needs me to be able to sign off, giving him permission to bring this Eagle Scout project forward. So according to the Eagle Scout rules, until the sponsoring or the agency that's receiving the gift signs off on the project, he technically can't go much more forward than what he's already done. So we do need to hopefully approve that we think that, or we know that he's heading in a great direction, and that we support the efforts and that we can sign off on that. He also is aware that the commission would like to have final say in any of the materials and the design. We don't need to talk about that today because it's not been finalized, but that is an awareness, and I think we're all comfortable with that as well. So the two items that I'm hoping to accomplish today actually three, would be one, to answer any questions that anybody has regarding the project. Two, to get the commission's approval for me to sign off that he can continue to work on his Eagle Scout project. And then three, to get some guidance on the commission about his fundraising efforts specifically. He's interested in using bricks as fundraisers and plans to engrave bricks with people's names that will then be installed either as the flooring of the gazebo and or around the gazebo site. And I just need to make sure that the commission is comfortable with that, since it would be probably quite a few names on town property that would be being installed.
Okay,
Would the bricks marry with the names on it? Is that planned for in the gazebo floor itself or on the walkway?
So right now we don't have the final plans from Connor.
Okay.
I believe that his plan would be to put them on the floor of the gazebo. However, that said, we could guide him to a different location on the site if we felt appropriate.
Yeah, Mary, one of the things we were considering was if we had to reduce cost of the project was the path piece. That, maybe that is something that, is omitted from the plan. But if that's going to be the chief fundraiser, it sounds like we can't do that.
So I do think that the path, I don't believe he was intending to line with the bricks. I think that the path was going to be an accessible material, and that the bricks were always going to be either underneath or surrounding. I don't think the intention was for him to have the bricks going from the current paved path all the way up. But I appreciate your thought process on that, but I don't think that he's planning to use bricks as that.
anyone else? Tom?
I do have two
I'm sorry, John, go ahead.
That's okay.
Go
I
ahead,
have two concerns with the project, and the first one, I think, Mary, I'm sure you're probably feel the same way. Although I don't mean to speak for you, but it seems to me a little bit backwards to start a fundraiser without knowing how much you have to raise. So that's one issue, because you really want to know if you have to raise. If he's got to raise $6,000 or he's got to raise $20,000. So to me, that's a little bit backwards and a concern. That's one. The second one is still with the scope of the project and painting. I think it's a really, really bad idea to paint the gazebo, because that becomes a maintenance, an additional maintenance item for Parks and Rec. And I don't know if that's where we want to go with it. So those are my two concerns.
Okay. Tom, how about your thoughts?
Well, according to John, I mean, he hasn't raised that much money. I mean, I see what John's saying, that he can't raise the money before he knows total. I mean, but he's not even close to the total budget for the project. So, I mean, I think
Excuse me,
he's under a
Tom.
little bit
Is
of a
anyone
time.
else having trouble understanding Tom?
Yes.
That's what he's doing it
Excuse me,
on,
Tom?
right? Am I correct about that?
Tom, your audio is intermittent.
Okay, thank you, John.
Ah, maybe it just came up. My thing is unstable.
Yeah, we can't make out what you're saying, Tom.
All right, you can't. I'm gonna go.
We'll come back to you, Tom.
All right. I'm gonna go on the iPad because this is a Chromebook. I'm gonna go on the iPad, so I'll be right back.
You can chat your note. Note everybody. Oh.
I'm not sure he can hear me. Tom, we'll move to Cassie and we'll come back to you.
I think he went to get a different computer or something
Maybe,
else.
yeah. Cassie, do you want to comment?
You're muted.
I agree with John. I think we need to know how much we need to raise. I think that's good to have. He has the wherewithal, so he can get a ballpark figure, I would think. He's working with professionals. And I tend to agree. I also wonder if we want, how is he going to put those names on the bricks? And if that's going to make for kind of a slippery surface. We could always do a plaque with the people's names on a plaque that have bought the bricks. Might be a safer thing and might be a more cost efficient thing. Just a couple of thoughts of mine.
Okay. Brian?
Well, and Mary, you may know the answer to this regarding the bricks. I mean, has he figured out how much it's going to cost to engrave the bricks? And I think of Disney World, right? Anybody who's been to the entrance to Disney World, their bricks are engraved, and and it's fine. But what people are donating, if they're donating $100 and it's going to cost them $40 a brick to have it engraved, is kind of
Right. That's my thought.
Thank you, John. He has reached out to a few different suppliers of the bricks to talk about pricing, but I do not have those figures from him yet. But he is working on that process right now.
Okay.
The donation cost usually covers the cost of the bricks. And I was saying, thinking to myself that the bricks always sound like a lovely idea, and I like them outside, like they're outside the Newtown Library. They're outside of a gazebo in a couple of places, Southbury, Ridgefield. I think as part of the floor, I have a couple of concerns. One, it does take away a little bit of just the quiet peacefulness of sitting in the gazebo. It can be quite busy with all the names. And two, brick flooring can be a maintenance nuisance. Even the best laid, brick flooring by experts, really within 3 or 4 years, it's starting to buckle in spots and so forth. And I'm not sure that we want to chase that. I'm open. I mean, I really don't have any super strong objection, but it wouldn't be my choice to go with a brick floor inside the gazebo itself. Maybe that can be an add-on. I'm really focused on getting this project moving. And I think that those things, if it's outside of the gazebo, could be considered after. I'd like to just get going on the nuts and bolts of this project and really keep Connor focused on that.
Joey, I agree with you. Mary, I think when we talked about this last month, you said that there was multiple iterations of the plan. So depending on how much was actually raised or how much was donated or how much we were going to contribute, the plan could accommodate this or that. And then if he had to scale back, he could scale back. Have you seen those plans where they are going to be able to do that? My only concern is there's going to be a shortfall between what's donated and then the cost of, the said plan and how we actually make up that gap. So I'm hoping that we can find a way that we don't have to deal with that.
Thank you, Brian. Legitimate concern, and that is something that Connor is also working through right now. So until he meets with a structural engineer and really has an idea of what's needed to stabilize the structure, he is hard pressed to be able to work out all of the different scenarios. But he is fully capable and aware of when he walks away from his project, what the town and the commission needs to have happen is that the structure needs to be stabilized and suitable for use. And anything else is an add-on. And so when he and I spoke on Monday, he is very clear on that we're not going to make a lot of promises. We're going to say that, there's other amenities that we're hoping to include as part of the scope of the project, but the purpose of the project is to really solidify what's there right now in terms of the structure. And then if budget and time allows, then the path, the landscaping would come into play. And so we're all very, very much on the same page, but in fairness, I do not have budget numbers, but when he and I spoke on Monday, we were speaking of exactly that process and that we would need to know going in. The nice thing is that in order to get the building permit, we need to submit plans. So on the plans, it's going to be stating what the materials are. We're going to know what the cost of those materials are when we submit for the building permit. So in my opinion, there's really very little risk to the town at this point to allow him to continue with this process. The town is holding currently the donated funds that we've collected. The town is holding the money that we have in our capital account, which, by the way, Connor hopes to not use. His intention is to fundraise enough money that he doesn't need to use the money that the town has set aside for capital repair in our current budget cycle. But we're holding all of the funds. We're holding the building permit. We have, a lot of the control in the situation, even after we tell him to go forward and start making these plans. And so I think it's important for everybody on the commission to realize that as well, that because the building permit is going to be, very, very clear about what's going to be built and how it's going to be built, we're going to know all of that before anything begins.
Okay, and Mary, the money that the town has set aside for capital projects, that's separate from Brookstock funds?
Correct. We have an account in capital, which was $7,000, which was funded this past fiscal year. And
Okay.
then we have $4,200 in donations from Brookstock and Four Corners Business.
And then Connor's raised 3. And if I could speak to that for a moment, I know we had asked a while back if there was a mandatory fundraising component, and there was not. So I find it admirable that he wishes to fundraise and that he wishes to not use town funds. It's really an admirable goal. But again, I would really like to keep him focused on the goal, which is to refurbish and repair the gazebo as soon as possible. And I know he has a deadline as well because it's an Eagle Scout project, and I think his birthday is sometime in June. So we, by my math right now, we have roughly, $14,000. I think that he needs to proceed. Again, if he wants to fundraise, maybe it's for some of the extras. But I wouldn't, what I'm worried about is that he will fundraise, try to, fundraise $7,000, $10,000, that's just going to take time. So I think the board should, in my opinion, approve him moving forward, but moving forward, to get these numbers, get the permit, get the plans, and use the funds that we have, which I think we'd all discussed in the past. We should be able to do this, especially his labor is free for under 14,000. I would say any extra or any additional fundraising he'd like to do is icing on the cake, but I'd really like to move him forward with the funds that we have so we get going on this.
And just if I may clarify, Joey, we're not physically turning over any funds to him. So when we're saying we're giving him the okay to go forward, it's with his planning to come back to the town and say, these are the plans that I'm presenting for your review. These are the plans I want to give to the building department for their review, and then we go forward from there. Right. We're not saying, here's our checkbook. We'll see you in May for the opening. So
yes,
so there's a lot of steps that happen between there and there.
Yes. And I do understand that, Mary. I guess my overarching point is I don't want him to feel he needs to fundraise to meet some goal when we have funds put aside for the nuts and bolts again of this project right now. I'd love to get him focused and off the ground and get going with the project.
I agree with you, Joey. I think it is important because of the timeliness of
Right.
when construction needs to happen, and then if you back up when materials need to be ordered, when the building permit needs to be submitted, I think it is important for him to be able to start more of his planning phase.
Right. When is he meeting with the, I guess it's a structural engineer, the gentleman, when is he meeting with that or anyone to start to rough out numbers or to fine tune numbers a little bit more and plan?
Yeah, thank you. So they're actually meeting on site on Saturday.
Okay.
I think there was a little bit of delay with the holidays in December. It's always hard to schedule meetings, but they're meeting on Saturday, and then I believe that the structural engineer is going to be creating schematics for Connor to use and to base some decisions on going forward.
Okay. Tom, let's go back to you. We had trouble hearing you before. What would you like to comment?
No, I kind of agree with you, Joey, there. He needs to move forward. I mean, he does have, I think, $15,000 right now we have.
Almost, yeah.
So it's, I'm fine with him, okaying him going forward with it right now, actually. I agree with just about what you said, actually.
And Renee, I don't see her, so I don't want to forget you, Renee.
You know, I feel like I'm always like the voice of dissension whenever we talk about things like this. So,
That's all right.
you know, I'm just concerned that this young man with limited life experience is taking on a project that is far beyond his years and experience and means to do. And that it's going to require a lot of professional intervention, and that this is something that holds a lot of historical significance to people in this town and really needs to be done the right way. So I'm like concerned that like he's taken off a little bit more than he can chew.
I'd like to jump in on that, Renee, and support you in that. And by that, I mean, I feel that any meeting that Mary is going to have with Connor, that the home contractor that is really kind of overseeing this should be present as well. It shouldn't be just Connor and Mary going through, you know, the steps of what needs to be done. But I feel that licensed contractor should be part of those meetings.
Yeah, and I think we also need to maybe vet the person that is chosen to make sure that they see the project through to the end. Because I certainly don't think that if we take this on and approve this, that we want something done halfway and then be left with in a position where we have to either invest more funds or something happens with the contractor. Like things happen along the way, even when you're just trying to paint your living room. You know what I mean? Like unexpected things come up. And this is like quite an extensive project. Like, I just think they should proceed with a whole bunch of caution.
Understood, Renee. I cannot recall, Ed, if you have weighed in yet. I apologize.
I'm certainly for this project. I'm not against it, but I share the concerns of Renee and John. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we know any more now than we did last month. And it seems like there's a lot of he's gonna, a lot of enthusiasm, but nothing's happening. There's no answers to any questions that we have.
Mary, can you speak to that? Because there has been a little bit of movement from what you said before, but what can you say to those concerns?
I think there's been first, I respect everybody's opinions on this, and I respect that we can all have differing opinions and that we're all, you know, entitled to our differing opinions. You know, in terms of the movement that I've seen that Connor has been having weekly meetings now with his group of mentors, including his home improvement contractor, for probably at least 3 or 4 weeks. I see him meeting with the with the structural engineer on Saturday, I see him needing to do exactly the same things that any other commercial contractor would need to do in order to get his building permit. I see the town needing to inspect anything that's done to ensure the safety of whatever is built. And I see other contractors in town, whether they're involved with Boy Scouts or not involved with Boy Scouts, being ready to step in and lend their expertise to the project, and including our building inspector. I actually had a conversation with Demi this week, and he's thrown his hat in the ring as a resource for Connor as well. So I really do feel like we have a lot of good and qualified people who are there to assist. I feel like we have the money for the project, and really, Connor's not doing anything differently than what I would be doing in this situation. I would be going to contractors, asking for their opinions, asking them to meet me on site, developing a budget, having a plan, pulling the building permit. I would be going through the same process myself, and I would be doing that if Connor wasn't doing it. And so, rest assured that there are all these processes in place to make sure that the right thing is going to happen. And if Connor doesn't come up with a building permit, and we can't, apply for a building permit, the project stops there. And so then what would happen is then the town will pick up and move the project forward because we have the funds, we have the donations, and that was the intention of the town before Connor came. So again, I do feel that Connor's capable. I really do. He sent me a fantastic spreadsheet with the status and the news and the next step and the key dates and things like engineering and working with the building department, fundraising, the roofers, social media, advertising. So he has the big picture of all the pieces that he needs to do. I do feel like he has the support from people in his troop, his family, and then other community members who want to see the right thing happen. So I personally have seen a lot of positive progress in the last 3 weeks. And I'm happy for it, and I do have a high degree of confidence that this can come about. And I will also share with you that one of our donor groups actually called me, or a representative from one of our donor groups called me yesterday and just asked me for a status update. And I let her know where we were in process and that, they were meeting with structural engineers and we were going to be beginning the process to apply for the building permit. And she was thrilled. So the donors are happy to see movement. Movement is good. Just like if we were doing a project, you have to get all of your pieces in place. And I recognize that, Connor's saying he wants to raise about $25,000 to get his pie in the sky project. Well, we'll see what happens, but he's also a realist and recognizes that, pie in the sky may not happen during pandemic times, and perhaps we're going to be having a Hershey bar, and that's good too, So we're all on the same page, and I really do feel like I appreciate everybody in the commission caring so much about having the right thing happen for the town, and I'm right there with you. I have the same sense of responsibility and caring to make sure that the right thing happens. I think what's really different for me today than what I felt perhaps in December was the fact that we know the building department must be involved, and we also know that the structural engineer is consulted, and we also know that the community response for the fundraising has been so positive in just a number of days, and people are volunteering their services, their time, their money. It feels like a lot of really positive things have happened, and I do feel like the town and our department are much more protected today than perhaps we were when we last spoke in December, and that makes me okay with giving the okay for Connor to proceed.
I have just a question within all that, and Mary, thank you very much for that. Of the people, the contractors that have offered their assistance, do we know them? I don't have to know them personally, but do you know them? Are they people that are reputable in the area, and have they made a commitment to see the project through to the end, which I think is probably central to Renee's concern. I don't have a concern it will get off the ground. I don't have a concern about the funds. But I do want to make sure that we see it through. I also hear if I'm hearing you right, there's two parts to this. There is the project underway and seeing it through, which we have a good reason to be concerned that on any project. The other side, though, is getting him started to the next step. Maybe those are two separate things and we need to separate those out. And if I hear you, we can give that next layer of approval, get him going, and really he's moved the town in the direction we would be going in anyway if we had to pick it up, because we do want this gazebo repaired. The last thing I will say, and sometimes we really get caught in the nitty gritty, and I'm guilty of this often, but it is a gazebo. It's not an extension to a building and so forth. And I understand it needs to be done right. I want it done right and safely, but I don't want to overthink the project either. As long as I know that we have committed people that will provide good oversight and that they are committed to see that through. Any other comments?
Can I just ask who is actually going to be doing the work? Do we know, Mary? Is it going to be the troop, or is it going to be the, the contractors?
Thank you. So truly, Cassie, right now, I would answer that by it's going to depend on what aspects of the work we're talking about. I do know that as of right now, Connor is looking about perhaps engaging with a professional roofer in order to take that aspect off, so have that done professionally. I would expect as his conversations continue, it's going to be thought about how to best accomplish each part of the project and then the right people do them. So we could certainly have, the Boy Scouts, I'm not trying to underestimate their abilities, but just as an example, moving materials on site, they could, with wheelbarrows and bringing the stone and there are certain things that for sure, more kind of laborer positions that many people would be qualified to do. And then there are going to be probably other aspects of the project that would be more overseen and or completed by somebody who's a home improvement contractor. And so my best answer to you today would be that I would anticipate it both. We would have both volunteers and then licensed contractors who would be doing the work on the project.
Thank you. So basically, he needs permission from us to move forward to get some of these things rolling, to meet with the contractor, to meet with the structural engineer, get all that together, and then submit a building permit. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So I think that it makes sense to allow him to do that because, as you said, the town's going to do this anyway. So whether it's through his, ground laying work or whether the town takes it over, this all has to be done anyway. So it would seem to me that it would make sense for us to let him go forward and to sign off at that, because as you said, if they deny him the building permit, then it's all moot.
Right.
Doesn't matter.
Right. And I think, Cassie, the converse of not allowing him to move forward, at least getting the pricing, getting the structural engineer, the plans, the building permit, the converse of not having him move forward is that we're stuck doing nothing and or doing it ourselves. And the other thing is, Mary, am I correct if I recall talking to him many meetings ago? Is his birthday sometime in June, if I recall?
Yes, you are correct, Joey.
So if we don't move him forward, the other thing is that he could very well just say, then I'm running out of time, I can't do the project. Moving him forward, Mary, giving him the go-ahead to get the numbers, get the plan, get the building permit, we still as a commission would have final sign off with that once he gets that building permit? Would we have final sign off then? You know, once he lines up,
In
this
term-
is who I'm working with, so forth, do we have an opportunity then to say, you got to tighten that up, or, you know, we need a professional on this? Do we have an opportunity to fine tune that?
Yes, I would expect so. There's a lot of space between what's happening right now in terms of the research and the meetings and the schematics and the actual construction and who's going to be participating in the actual construction. So Connor's goal is to do the repair work sometime in the middle of April. So we're the first week of January. So right now, there is still plenty of time, but it would be important. He's not going to be able to meet his goal of trying to do the repair work in April if he can't start the process with the building department and with making the plans that he needs to make. So, you know, to your point, I do think it's. I don't think the town has anything to lose, truthfully, by allowing Connor to go on to the next step and going for his building permit and the plans. There's no loss at all for the town.
Okay. I wonder if we could structure a motion that sounds like phase 2, that we're approving Connor to move forward, meeting with a structural engineer, getting schematics, pricing, and applying for a building permit approval. Perhaps with a stipulation in there is that then he will present for phase 3 to the commission, that we will sign off on, you know, the list of builders, the list of volunteers, so on and so forth. How does everyone feel about that? Yes?
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Okay.
Good to
I would
me.
agree.
Tom, Renee? Is
Yep,
Renee-
I agree.
Okay, so can I hear a motion for that? Go ahead, Tom, take a stab at
I'll
it.
motion what you just said.
What
To-
she
to
said.
Begin the second
What she
phase.
said, yeah. It's a
to
guy
begin the
thing,
second
Cassie.
phase of the I motion to begin the second phase of the project. Right?
Do you want me to read something?
Yeah,
Sure,
read something.
you.
Thank you.
Do you want me to try to put something together?
Yes.
Go ahead, Liz.
How about I motion to approve Connor Carlson meeting with a contractor, meeting with a structural engineer, obtaining schematics, obtaining a building permit, and returning to the Parks and Rec Commission for approval of phase 3.
That sounds good. I would add in there, and you may have said it in here, coming back to us with numbers. With-
Okay.
With schematics, building plan, numbers, so, and to go ahead and apply for a building permit.
Oh, I thought the building permit is part of it, though. He's going to apply for that prior, right?
That's part of phase 2,
Well,
yeah.
Yeah, that's
part of
Okay.
this. That's what I mean. In fact, we need
Schematics.
numbers in there too.
Building plans.
Liz, would you mind
All right.
when you're ready to read that one more time to us?
Yes. Just one sec. I hope you can't hear my dogs in the background. That would be embarrassing. Okay,
I
you
can
ready?
see them. I can see the dogs.
Okay, so whoever it is, make a motion to approve Connor Carlson meeting with a contractor, meeting with a structural engineer, acquiring schematics and building plans and figures, and returning to to obtain a building permit. I'm going to have to
Let's-
reread this, I suppose.
That's all right. Meeting, I would say.
All right, let
meeting
me
with a
start over.
structural
You ready?
engineer And contractors with the goal of final or figures, building costs.
All right,
let's say,
all right, so we'll say costs, project costs.
project costs, and obtaining a building permit.
All right, I'll try this again. Motion to approve Connor Carlson meeting with contractors, structural engineer to acquire building schematics, building plans, and project costs, to obtain a building permit and return to the Parks and Rec Commission for approval of Phase 3.
Yes, and I would describe phase 3 as the actual building phase. Final approval on the actual building.
Well, it's the building phase, but also the entire scope of the project, what is actually being.
Yeah, and exactly. Phase 3 would be our sign off on the actual scope and cost of the projects, you know, with the appropriate oversight and so forth. But you don't have to say all that.
I'm running out of ink in my pen here from all this.
That's all right. So Tom, does that satisfy your?
That's
motion?
fine. Yeah.
All right, so
That's-
Tom.
Easy for you to say, Tom.
That's why I had you say it.
May I hear a second to that
I'll
motion?
second it.
Kathy, thank you. All those in favor of allowing Connor to move forward, to be able to assemble schematics, costs, and so forth, and a building permit approval, say aye with a show of your thumbs up or thumbs down.
Aye.
And Renee
Aye.
said
Aye.
aye,
Aye.
and motion passes unanimously.
Joey? Joey,
Yes, Ed, I'm sorry.
can we invite Connor to come to the next meeting and speak firsthand about, you know, what has transpired between now and then? That's all.
I think that's
5
an
minutes, 10 minutes,
excellent idea. That's an excellent idea.
and
Mary,
where,
can we-
where he's going from there.
Mary,
Absolutely,
arrange
we can invite him. I do believe that he typically has a conflict with another activity on Wednesdays during our meeting time, which is what's made it difficult for him to come before. But that said, I will reach out to him and invite him and ask him if there is any way possible for him to please clear his schedule in order to attend the next meeting.
And Mary, I will say this, if we can find out perhaps in the next week, what time on a Wednesday he might be able to accommodate us, and perhaps we can accommodate, you know, that one meeting, perhaps hold it at 6 or 7, if that's agreeable to everyone. I think it's pretty critical to have him in front of us at this juncture. So
Yeah,
perhaps we
I
can
agree
work
with that,
something out like.
Joey. But we're giving him a month ahead of time, unless he's caring for an invalid family member. He's got a month to show up on our terms, hopefully.
Hopefully.
If he
Well,
can't,
I would even be willing to have a short special meeting
That's true too.
to accommodate him.
Yeah.
We are on Zoom. It's not that difficult. I would be more than willing to meet for another night briefly, even if it was a separate meeting, just to meet with him.
I agree, Cassie.
Once he gets this information, and maybe he'll have it before a month.
Yeah,
good, Cassie.
That's an excellent
It's not gonna
idea.
Take that long anyway.
yeah, it won't take long. It'll be very focused.
Yeah.
And I think this is kind of a critical juncture to
Yeah.
hear from him. So that's an excellent idea, Cassie. So Mary, would you, if you ever want one of the chairs to reach out to him, we're happy to do that. But I know you've had, communication with him pretty regularly. So if you'd like to reach out to him and see if he can set something like that up, that would be great.
Yeah, of course. I will see if we can do it in our next regular meeting. And if not, I will reach out to the commission and try to get an idea of some days and times that would work for the majority of us and then suggest those to him instead. I do just have quick follow-up question. So just to be clear, what Connor needs from me at this particular point in time for his Eagle Scout requirement is that he does need for me to approve him going forward with a project in some respect. And I understand that the commission has just made a motion that basically stating that we approve this next phase and that he's coming back, and then we're going to approve the next phase. And I think that's a great way of approaching it. I'm not sure what kind of language he's going to need to have in his documentation. So I just want to kind of be clear with that because I haven't seen what he needs from me yet. So
So
And
Mary,
the other,
I'm sorry, Mary, go ahead.
I'm sorry, and the other piece was that he was really looking for clarification from us today, was specifically on the engraved bricks, because that is an important part of his fundraising, and I know that we talked about that and a lot of other aspects of the project as well. And I'm not trying to muddy the waters, but if there's any way of us giving him any guidance on that today, I'm sure he would appreciate that from us.
We can talk about that separate. As far as moving him forward, and I don't want him to have to assume anything, nor should we, but I'm understanding that we are giving him approval to go ahead with this process. The only way I see pulling him back or off of this is if we have grave concerns about his oversight. His numbers overrun our budget, so forth. So I don't want to remove from the commission an opportunity to say, whoa, this isn't going to work out. But I see that as, you know, we're giving him permission to go forward. I understand. And the point I touched on before was, as an Eagle Scout, you know, we can't kind of leave him hanging either. And he has no time to re-up another project of his choosing. So does everyone agree that we are giving him the go ahead? The only thing we're saying is, you know, we want him to get back to us and to, you know, we certainly want to be satisfied that he has appropriate oversight and has appropriate help on this project. But barring that, I do see that we are giving him approval to move forward. Is that how everyone else understands what we're doing tonight?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so we may need to tweak the motion a little bit so that phase 3 doesn't sound like that's where we're giving you approval to move forward on the project. We are giving him approval now we are giving him the green light on the project. We just have to
you want me to read this again?
Yes, thank you.
Because
Liz.
it's basically saying he's going to present phase 3, not that you've approved it.
Right.
It says Tom Murphy made a motion for Connor Carlson to meet with contractors, structural engineers, acquire schematics, building plans, and project costs to obtain a building permit and return to the Parks and Rec Commission to present phase 3.
Let's
The
stop right
scope
there.
of the project.
Liz, let's say, you know, and to obtain building permit to move forward with the refurbishment of the gazebo. And then perhaps add after that, Connor will, you know, return to the commission when construction begins, you know, so that the commission can be assured of proper oversight and you know,
I like it the way it is, Joey.
you do?
Yeah, we've given him the okay to move on, and we're going to see him in a month. Nobody's told him
Okay.
to stop.
So
It's
Mary,
basically
phase
saying he's
3
going to
sounds like
obtain
we're-
information. It's basically saying he's going to obtain information to return to the Park and Rec Commission with. Because I finished it with to present phase 3,
Yeah, I
the
leave out
scope of the
phase 3.
project, but there's more after. So the phase 3, and you wanted me to put in about, so I put to present phase 3, comma, the scope of the project and building phase in its entirety.
I am concerned, Ed, that phase 3 sounds like we still are withholding approval, and I understand he needs approval to move forward. You know, I guess.
When we say that,
the
we're
town
giving
is-
him approval to move on and list those things
Yep,
in the next meeting.
Do you want to not call it phase 3? Do you want to call it something like the next step in the project?
that's fine, because I think that certainly signals more that we're giving him approval to move forward. Look, the town, at any point, the town, Demi, whatever, can pull this if they feel that this is not being done appropriately. I don't think that's ever going to be out of our hands. In fact, we have more strength with the town actually overseeing this and pulling it. So I think we need to make it clear in the motion that we're telling him, we're giving him the go-ahead to move forward. But we,
With his Eagle project.
Right.
yeah,
I think that needs to be stated, that's what Mary's asking us for.
right, that's
is to
correct,
Say that we are giving him permission to move forward with his Eagle project.
right.
Period. That's very good.
Does that work, Liz? And you can certainly put it in there with the schematics and all that, but with his Eagle project. And I think that one statement clarifies a little bit with him to present it to his, whoever is overseeing his Eagle Scout application.
Is that what you think he needs, Mary?
Thank you, Cassie. Yes, for sure. He needs for us to okay him going forward with his Eagle Scout project.
Okay, Liz, start right there with that, Liz, and then, comma the items that we're talking about, and scratch the phase 3. So.
All right,
can I
so
hear a motion to
Tom
approve that
Murphy.
First motion,
Do you want me to read how I have it and then tell me how you'd like me to change it?
please, thank you.
Okay. Tom Murphy made a motion for Connor Carlson. So you want to say to move forward with his Eagle project, period.
Do you want to say the word approve?
Is that where you want that?
Or move forward, that's fine, yes. With his
And
Eagle
then-
Scout,
So Tom Murphy made a motion for Connor Carlson to move forward with his Eagle project, but that kind of makes it sound like you're approving the whole thing.
well, then I would say.
So what we could do is say Tom Murphy made a motion for Connor Carlson to meet with contractor, structural engineer, acquire schematics, building plans, and project costs to obtain a building permit, and move forward with the next step of his Eagle project,
Yeah,
and
that
then
still
return
doesn't
to the
sound
commission?
Clear enough. I would start off by saying that made a motion to, which we really have, to approve Connor Carlson's Eagle Scout project. And then I would say specifically to meet with blah, 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 blah,
Okay.
period. And get rid of the phase 3. Again, we'll always have that oversight, and the town above us has that oversight to say, stop.
Okay, so you don't want anything about returning to you guys to present anything?
I don't think that's necessary. I think if you
Okay.
would approve his Eagle Scout project specifically to meet with structural engineer, meet with contractor, obtain schematics and costs, project costs, that sort of says it all right there, that's what
Right.
we're approving. So I think it sort of speaks for itself and kind of protects us to say, stop because you don't have proper oversight or something. Nothing in here binds us to the project if it doesn't, have appropriate oversight. Everybody okay with that? Yes, so Tom, you okay with changing the motion? And-
I'm fine, yeah.
Being
Do
the
I gotta
author
make the
on that?
motion again?
Okay, and Cassie, you okay with the second?
Yes.
All those in favor of the revised motion, just show a thumbs up, and Renee?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much, Liz, for your help with that. And thank you, everybody, for your patience getting that right. Okay,
We're still going to invite him back. Next time.
I'm sorry, Ed?
Invite him back to the next meeting.
Absolutely,
Okay, good.
absolutely. And Mary, let's talk about the bricks. How does everybody feel about the bricks? I'm almost indifferent, but I'm leaning towards, I have to admit, I'm sort of leaning towards keeping that floor a little easier maintenance wise. Anyone else have an opinion so we can?
Yes, I do. Take a look at Danbury High School at the top of their bleachers, what has happened over the years with the sinking and the turning and all of this stuff. I think what Cassie did with the original track plaque is excellent.
Mhm.
Correct me, Cassie. I don't think that's, the weather hasn't affected, it hasn't been defaced. It's always there for people to see without being walked on and, wearing out.
Right,
I don't know what the cost difference is, but maybe he can look at both of those
yeah.
options.
And perhaps in the future, he can brick going around the outside edge. I've seen that in Ridgefield. I think it goes around. I just also think it's a little busy inside, and I'd like it simpler. Cassie, how do you feel?
Well, I think you need to be careful with the floor. It's covered, we get frost heaves, you might get moss growing in there. You're talking about then a slippery situation. You want this to be as little upkeep as possible
Right.
because people are going to be using it. And a covered structure like that, it is going to get, damp in there, and it could be slippery, and brick could be slippery. So,
Right.
I think we need to speak to the contractors and what they recommend. But I think if you want to put brick anywhere, it should probably be outside,
outside.
not inside. That's my personal opinion.
And I think it's a little
Agree.
more natural in the structure if it is crushed stone or maybe down the road it's even cemented, but I think it's a more natural look out in the woods. How about let's make it quicker so that we can move along. Show me a thumbs up if you'd like brick inside. Oh dear.
No.
And Renee, how about you, Renee?
No, I totally agree with Cassie.
No brick.
No, not inside, no.
Sounds like we're all in agreement. So Mary, we feel no brick.
Inside.
Okay. Thank you. And then just so I'm clear, so I can tell him the correct information on behalf of the commission. No brick inside for the floor. Is brick allowed on other places outside? Is there a brick apron? Are there no bricks? Are there bricks outside of the floor, but they're not engraved? Can we maybe just clarify a few other points there?
I think brick wherever there isn't a lot of motion, maybe even a walkway too, because again, it's not out in front of a library or something or it's not going to be set in cement. So I would say if he really, really wants this brick idea, maybe a 2-foot collar around the outside is how I see it happening. Other than that, I think anywhere there is foot traffic or motion, to Cassie's point, and I think a few others earlier, it's just going to create it's going to be a nightmare. So that's my thought. Anybody else?
Let's let him come back with options of bricks and plaques.
Yeah, I would ask again, Mary, that he focuses on, again, the nuts and bolts, the meat and potatoes here. And I know it's a good fundraising tool, but perhaps the fundraising, he can fundraise in other ways that isn't.
Well, I don't want to discourage him from fundraising. I don't think we want to do that.
No, I'm saying in other ways, not by selling bricks.
But I think he could we sold meters of the track that were, they were imaginary meters. So, we could sell bricks, but instead of actually maybe using bricks, we decide on another substance, or we use some sort of a paver or some sort of a thing that isn't engraved, and then and say to him, maybe, we get a plaque donated or as part of the fundraising, and everybody who has bought a brick, their names are there. You don't have to worry about it wearing out. You don't have to worry about, wear and tear on the brick itself. Engraving that might be a greater cost, engraving the brick, and then that, that might interfere with the strength of the brick itself.
So what we are saying, though, is it sounds to me like we're still saying no bricks, though, no actual bricks, because I know some people buy a brick and they want to see their brick in the ground.
Right.
So I just want to make it clear to him that, so are we saying no actual engraved bricks even around the structure, or do we allow him to, fundraise with the bricks around, like a collar around the outside? Or fundraise with other ideas. So Mary, if I understand you tonight, he'd like to know, can I fundraise with bricks? Actual bricks.
That's correct, Joey. And I was hesitant to share my personal thoughts on the topic until everybody on the commission was able to share theirs. It sounds like I think everybody has kind of spoken on their opinions. I'm of the belief that I would not want to see engraved bricks as the floor for the structure for all of the reasons stated, and probably a couple of more on top of that. So I had actually suggested the plaque like they did for the Track Restoration Committee, excuse me, my cell phone is boinging, and suggested that as an alternative, and that we could have the different levels of donors listed on the plaque on the site, but it wouldn't be actually on the bricks. And so he was going to, when last we spoke, look at that and see how much that would cost, and versus the cost of the actual bricks for the floor of the structure. So I do think that avoiding bricks is a good idea for maintenance and for other reasons.
Then I would say that the commission feels as such, and then I would push him in the direction of exploring a plaque idea.
You can still charge for your name on the plaque.
Mhm.
So no bricks for you.
Right.
Now I want soup, Ed.
Oh, okay.
Is that helpful, Mary, for him, for guidance, for you? Is that what he's looking for an answer for? Does that help?
Yeah, no, that's a very clear answer. I told him that I would specifically ask the commission because I had my opinion, but I didn't want to be the only one weighing in on it, and so I kept my word, and I appreciate everybody else weighing in, and I will let Connor know that we do not want to have any kind of bricks or engraved bricks on the property, but that the commission certainly is open to having something with a plaque instead.
I think that's also appropriate looking, in a natural setting. All right, so is there anything else that we need to discuss in terms of the gazebo project? Or can we move on to old business? Unless, Mary, you had other items in your director's report.
No, thank you. I was going to try to be brief, but that hasn't worked out so far so good. So I will try to be more brief going forward.
Fine. So department COVID-19 response and facility reopening, can we touch upon that in donation briefly so that we can move on to the budget, which will be probably pretty brief this year, I'm guessing.
If it's okay, we just kept those as placeholders for our meeting later this month. So I'm happy to jump right into the budget if everybody else is agreeable.
Everyone else all right with that?
Yep.
Yes, yes, Mary.
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right, so really quickly, I had hoped to have a little bit more in writing, but I didn't have budget materials to work from in order to do that. So I'm going to give a very quick synopsis of where we are right now with our budget process. So very understandably, we have been asked to craft our budgets with a 0% increase, excluding any kind of salary or union salary increases by contract. So basically, our budget is going to be flat unless we have some expenses that we're going to be tweaking. As an example, we might have a small increase in our software support for our registration software. We might have small increases in our communication or other small line items, but basically we're asked to try to keep a 0% increase to present. So there's really not very much to talk about because of that in terms of our operating budget. The one item I would like to talk about is we're also going to be able to present one of our next priority items. So the town started last year allowing us to submit a form with our next priority items. So if there was more funding, these would be up for discussion for operating. And so last year we submitted our next priority form for our additional full-time grounds position. We're still trying to get that position number 5, our third groundskeeper. And so our intention again for this year would be to submit that as our next priority form, along with some reductions in our seasonal workforce to help offset part of those costs. So we will need to submit a 0% increase, but we will also hope to include the next priority form with our request. And I wanted to see if the commission had any ideas or suggestions on ways that we can try to help raise awareness of the necessity of having that additional position in our department. Last year, we were supposed to present our budget presentation just when COVID was breaking, and our meeting was delayed and then rescheduled and delayed again, and we actually were not fortunate enough to be able to present last year because of circumstances. So I really feel like we need to go in with a very solid case for this year as to the necessity of it. Thinking perhaps I could ask the commission to help craft a letter or letters from individual members in support of that, if everybody is in agreement that that's an important thing in our budget for the Park and Rec Commission. And then if anybody else had any other creative out-of-the-box ideas of ways that we can help raise awareness of the need for that.
And Mary, refresh us a little bit. I know that Sean was out, because you have how many grounds people right now outside of Chris?
Thank you. So we have Chris, then we have our crew leader, and then we have 2 grounds maintainers. So our total is 4. We are back fully staffed. The person who had been out on long-term rejoined us back in September, end of September. So we are still at our 4. And we have been, we actually shifted back, this is our 2nd year, that we had been doing a lot of seasonal positions, and what happened was our department would onboard a lot of seasonal only during the summer. And so we would end up hiring a lot of high school and or older, college-aged people to come and work with us during the height of the summer where we had a lot of the activity going on. We found that by doing that, we were leaving ourselves really vacant during the shoulder seasons where we have a lot of work that happens between, March, April, May, and then after the college students leave in September, October, we needed more help than we were able to get. So we changed our strategy. We started hiring a longer-term seasonal position from March through October or early November. We've done that this is our 2nd year, works really well. We've been very lucky that we've had the same person come back for 2 years. We may not always be that lucky. We've seen the benefit of having people here for longer periods of time that we can train and build upon their skills. And so our next logical step would be to move one of those positions to a full-time position to give us a little bit more coverage for times that we need.
So,
Mary.
Go ahead, Cassie. That's fine,
I'm
Cassie, go ahead.
I'm just wondering if hiring that person, that 5th person, will that alleviate the need for your seasonal workers, or are you still going to need those seasonal workers?
Thank you, Cassie. That's a great question. So currently in our budget, we have budgeted for 2 seasonal workers. We have one, I believe that's 36 weeks, and then one that's 32 weeks. So with our full-time position, we would eliminate one of those and just onboard one person seasonally instead of the current 2.
Okay. So the delta, Mary, is really just going with one of those. Let's take the 36-week position. We're really going from 36 weeks to 52. It doesn't sound like it's a big ask. Do I have that right?
Well, then, but then you have benefits, et cetera.
I understand, yeah. Does the 36 week do they get any benefits at all?
They do not. So our seasonal positions are paid at a lower hourly rate, and they are not entitled for any benefit or sick time or vacation time. And Cassie is exactly right. That there also is the benefits package with any full-time position that's hired by the town that we do need to keep in mind with our budgeting because it is an additional expense that's incurred.
Right. Okay. And is that a union position, Mary?
It is.
It would be a union position too. Okay. Mary, was there ever a time over the last, say, 10 years that we had 5? I felt like we used to have 5.
Let me see if I can pull up my notes real quick. So back in 2008, we actually had 6 grounds maintainers and a park supervisor.
Okay.
And then in 0809, we cut positions and did more for contracted services.
Right.
And then since then, not to kind of take everybody through the long and windy road here, but there's certainly been some changes in terms of the pesticide ban that was approved back in 2010. So we spend a lot more time maintaining school properties now because you cannot apply pesticides on the K-8 schools. It really does require a lot more time intensive. And then we have the renovations at Kids Kingdom, Cadogan Park, the town beach, the high school athletic complex. So, and then we also have the Still River Greenway, 2016. We have the Town Center District, the Streetscape. So we have a lot more that we do now that didn't exist back in 2008.
Right.
And so, but we're doing it with less people.
Right. I like the fact that at least overlays, say, the 36 weeks person. So we're already sort of proving a need that we're well into, you know, 2/3, if you will, into a year, or a full-time position is a better way of saying it. We are already heading in that direction, so that makes it a little easier than just creating a brand new position. I think really a lot of what you just said is makes an excellent case. I'm happy to draft a letter. Would it be better if we each sent letters? Would it be better for a commission letter? First of all, is there anyone who disagrees with hiring another full-time grounds person? Put your hand up if you disagree. John?
I don't disagree. I just want to urge a little bit of caution, and I'm sure Mary's thought this through. When Dennis was the director, I think that's when they went from maybe 6 full-time to 4, because he was able to save money without having to pay all the benefits by hiring those seasonal part-time workers. So I think as long as the numbers work out, I mean, I agree that 4 is probably too, little as far as permanent, full-time workers. But that's my only caution is that, we reduced it because we could save money. Now we're trying to increase it. We want to make sure that those numbers work out.
Right. Well, and but we did spend a number of years, and the idea, I think, too, was more, we had a lot of flexibility with hiring, lawn contractors and such, more oversight over the quality of the job and so forth. So, but the fact is we did save, and I believe the number was somewhere about 90,000 that first year alone. So, you can also make the case that we have saved, and we are diligently trying to save in those years that we can, and we're thinking creatively financially, and have proven that. But now we're fast forward, 12 years later, and we have an increased need. So I think that, we've demonstrated that we're willing to think creatively when we can save the town some money, but that shouldn't stop us from meeting our needs when it's time to hire somebody else or more hours.
Right.
Actually, I think that helps our case, John, to say that we did that and we saved X number of dollars. Mary, maybe you even know roughly what those dollars add up to over the last 10 years, but now we have a need.
Right.
Any other thoughts? Ed?
I think Mary's point to continuity is also a good point. She's fortunate that the same person did come back 2 years in a row, but then you do lose a lot when you're trying to bring someone new on board and you're trying to train them in procedures and what exactly is done. So it can be in that way, it could be a little more cost effective from a production perspective. Right. They know the score, and you can plan better that way too. And the Greenway alone is a huge piece of Brookfield that takes a lot of maintenance, and all these increased storms that we have is another point.
Yeah. I mean, towns grow, and we've grown recreationally and with our parks, and that should be a source of pride. We have grown and expanded those offerings. The town has also increased, not by a lot, probably over 12 years, but population aside, we probably have increased usage of a lot of these parks, which is a good thing. So I agree, the Greenway is, a great point. Anybody else? Ed, Renee? I'm so sorry. I keep forgetting Renee.
No, you're not forgetting me. I'm fine. I'm sorry I don't have my camera on tonight. Got
silly.
A lot of balls in the air in the house, so I'm trying to multitask.
You're not the only one, Renee. Don't ever worry about that.
No, I'm totally in total agreement. I'll say something.
Was that what that big no sign was that I saw a few minutes ago? I'm just kidding. Instead of you. How about Ed or Tom? Ed, you're okay with? Can we ask that if anybody has more ideas for Mary, specific ideas, to share them with all of us, but Mary, I can certainly, I'm willing to draft something with all of these kind of points of view and get that to you.
That would be wonderful. Thank you very much.
And again, please share with me if something pops into your head tomorrow, any of you, like, wow, don't forget this, or, you know, whatever. I'd really appreciate being able to include that. Okay, Mary, not a problem. I'll get that to you. So in addition, Mary, to the extra grounds person, what else is on your short, sadly, but next priority list?
So I'm supposed to only submit one next priority item. So in fairness, if I'm going to follow the rules, then that would be the next priority item for this year. And I respect that, because there's never a good time to ask for a new position, but I respect that there's also particularly bad times to ask. And last year would have been a bad time to ask, and this year is a bad time to ask, but we wouldn't be asking if we didn't really feel it was essential.
Absolutely. And I'm making another point that, I mean, holding off is, you know, kind of a good point as well. It's not like the need popped up this year, in other words.
Mary, I think you definitely need to, like, emphasize that for sure, because it's not the first time that we've gone to the table asking for it. And countering with Cassie's point, I think that's a really huge driver in that we've been fortunate to have the consistency, but when you don't have the consistency, you're taking a really long time getting somebody to onboard, train, and up to speed.
Absolutely.
And that's like wasting a lot of money when the person that you are having do the job can't really do the job to their 100%. So I really think that this is, like, really, in the end, it's like it's a value net.
Right. That's so well said, Renee. I couldn't agree more.
And the other thing you might want to point out too is because of the pandemic, the use of our facilities in town has
exactly. Yes, exactly.
And I don't know that that's going to back off. People that have discovered all of the, you know, that didn't even know about the Greenway, that didn't know about Gursky Fields and the trees that fall there regularly, and all of those things.
You're absolutely right, Cassie.
That's not going to go away. It's going to stay. And word of mouth, people that don't even live in Brookfield are going to come and use a lot of these facilities. So I really do feel like that's a valid thing to emphasize.
I couldn't agree more. And it's a good thing for the town.
Yeah, it's a great thing.
You know, commerce to the town too.
Yeah.
So Mary, that will make that a strong next priority item, only item we're allowed. How about capital, Mary?
Thank you. So everybody's probably aware that the way that the town worked capital this past budget cycle was that anything that was bonded capital was not funded. And so only our cash capital items were funded. Our department was very fortunate. I do not say that with complaint, because we did get quite a few smaller items funded through cash capital. But we are a year behind on any of our bonded capital items. And so the plan is, again, just to make the needs known. We recognize that the town's not going to be able to fund everything, but I think that we do our department and really the town a disservice if we don't at least make the needs known and let folks decide what can be funded based upon the priority needs. So our number one need, again, is going to be, you know, the back turf replacement at the high school. Hopefully we're going to be putting in for the full $403,000 that we expect to need to complete the funding for that. We currently have, I believe, $127 in a reserve fund, $127,000. So that's our number one. Our number two is going to be looking for some money for engineered plans for the high school drainage out for the outfields. Last year we went in a little strong. We asked for the engineered work as well as the actual funding for the work. I think it would be reasonable for us to go in to ask just for the engineering to be funded, which we know is going to be probably just shy of $30,000. And then other items on our top 15 list would be things like reserve funding for the high school tennis courts, a zero-turn mower replacement that we need, a truck replacement that we need. We're going to be deleting some of our asks from last year that had to do with either Center School or Huckleberry Hill School, because our asks went in before the town approved the new school project. And so anything that's not absolutely necessary, we're not going to ask for funding to do. It doesn't make logical sense to do that. But we do have a couple of other projects. The Cadogan stair replacement we're going to be asking for. Probably a new Bobcat utility vehicle. We're finding that if we don't replace those on a regular basis, that we spend a lot of money in parts and repair work. And so, although it's a big ask, I do think that it actually saves the town money in the long run for us to not use those past their life expectancy. So those are probably the largest projects that we're going to be asking for. But last year we asked for 24 different items, and we were really fortunate. I want to say maybe 6 or 7 of them were funded. We're going to go ahead and ask for probably 18 to 20 this year. Some of them are larger ticket items, and we'll see what happens. We're also going to start raising awareness of the need to replace the stadium field at the high school. That was actually in our 10-year capital plan to be fully replaced this year. I don't expect that to happen, but we're certainly going to ask for some money in a reserve fund for that purpose. And then starting to look ahead for possible track replacement in conjunction with the stadium field replacement. It would make a lot of sense for the town to do those 2 projects at the same time if the timing for both of those facilities works. So that's capital in a nutshell right there.
Okay. All right. Mary, are you anticipating that you will be sitting this year and be able to present?
I really hope so. We haven't gotten a lot of guidance yet because we're very early in our budget process right now. So I would anticipate that usually the larger departments like police, Public Works, Park and Rec, we're typically invited to come and to present to the Board of Finance and or the Board of Selectmen. I would anticipate that to happen again. Would probably be a Zoom meeting this year as opposed to an in-person meeting, but I do hope and welcome the chance to speak to our needs.
Okay. If you do and you would like our support, let us know when that gets closer.
Thank you. I would welcome that.
Anybody have any questions for Mary on budget? It's kind of a straightforward year this year, but we'll see what happens. Any questions? No? All right. Mary, is there anything else that you need to discuss with us before we close out?
No, thank you all so very much for your time on these 2 very important topics today. I'm very grateful. I know we went a little bit long, but I'm very grateful for that.
No problem. Anyone else have anything? Tom? I can't hear Tom at all.
You're muted, Tom.
Sorry. I just have a quick question, Mayor, about the status of the ice rink that's going in at Williams Park. I was there early today. I saw it's all cleared and, the prep work has been done. Are we just waiting for the delivery of the actual rink?
Thank you for asking that question. So yes, the prep work's all done. We actually received the rink and the liner on New Year's Eve. Okay. And right now, the liner, when we received it, it was slightly damaged. And so we're working with the company to see if we can get a replacement liner. We'd rather not start off the process with a liner that has a couple of nicks in it. So we're working through that process this week. Yeah. But hopefully we're getting there.
Right. So I've been there, I see it's all ready to go. And it's been like that for a couple of weeks, actually. So I was just wondering, I figured we were just waiting for the delivery, actually. And then when we get that, we put that together, right? It's not like the company comes in and puts it together, right? Am I correct about that, right?
You are correct. The Parks Department will be putting it together.
Okay. All right.
Cool.
Thank you.
Then we need cold weather.
Yeah, I know.
Well, it was cold today.
Yeah, it was kind of. All right. Can
It
I
wasn't
hear,
quite cold.
Can I hear a motion
Windy.
for adjournment? Oh, come on, I know you have it in you. There you go. Tom, can I hear a
All
second?
right.
I'll second.
Thanks, Cassie. All those in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Bye.
Thank you all very much for taking the time tonight. Stay safe, be good, Happy New Year, and we'll see each other soon.
All righty.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.